Hi guys, welcome back to my Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host Stefan. And today is a fantastic day because I gonna get to interview Maureen Ross Gemme. Now, why am I so excited? Because, bouncing, like Tigger. Maybe too much coffee. Okay. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually excited about talking to Maureen because she is an expert in personality types. And that's a topic of mine that I love. I find intriguing. I find it mysterious how we all are so unique, yet there are certain groups of people, if you can talk to them in a language that they understand, you are winning. And if you can't get that language right, you might as well go home. And so therefore, and it's still, it's a mystery to me, and therefore I'm so excited because I know I'm going to be learning heaps today. So Maureen, welcome onto my show.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan. I'm so happy to be here. Good
Indeed.
to see you.
Oh, Maureen, it is amazing. I mean, how did you get into that? I mean, did you wake up one day as a little girl and say, Mommy, Daddy, wake them up. Hey, I know what I want to be. I want to be a leadership expert and I know exactly about personality types.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. No.
How did it come about?
It's a long and winding story. But honestly, I've always been fascinated with the study of human behavior, right? Why do we do what we do? And how can you even change, trying to change my own behavior, I realize how difficult it is, right? We get into these habits and patterns. And so I started looking at that. And then in my career, I certainly, being in the corporate workforce here in America, it was very, subtle, this whole feeling of you had to be somebody who you were not. You had to have this like mask on, the corporate mask. You had to have professionalism. You had to have this like, there was political undertones. You never knew, what was going on. And so it was a mystery to me. And so I got a lot more information. I started to study the Myers-Briggs type personalities for about 10 years. And then I got into the Enneagram for a while. And now I am an authorized partner of Everything Disc, which is a Wiley and Sons brand. And I teach leadership skills and these personality types to leaders because it is so important to really deeply understand who you are. But of course, I'm also in recovery. I've been sober for 37 years. And so I sort of switched addictions into personal growth and development. And I'm kind of you've heard the personal growth junkie label, but I definitely, I relate to that. I align with that. And I'm always constantly growing. And I think if you're a leader in this world, you've got to always be looking at yourself.
But I'm already a bit confused. Do we not all have the same personality? I mean, we are not changing, yet there are different models. What's this all about? What's the difference between a Myers-Briggs and the other things that you have mentioned?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to look at your personality, but I want you to remember, like, I'll share with you a little bit about one of the ones, the easiest one to understand yourself. And we've all taken personality tests on, the quizzes and fun things on social media, but really personality is only one part of you. It's a big part of you, but it's only one part. You also have your values, your attitudes, your beliefs, right? Your skills, your experiences, your age, your maturity levels, your background, and all of the things that come with you that makes you you. So even though I'm going to describe 4 personality types, and we're going to get into understanding your personality type better, just because you have the same quote personality type as somebody else doesn't mean that you're the same as them, right? We are a conglomerate of all of those things. And so you don't have to really understand what all the different models are or go near as deep as like I did in my career. But I will give you an overview because the more you know about yourself, the better it is for you, the better it is for the people that work for you or with you. and the better your relationships get. And don't we all want to have a little less conflict? Don't we all want to have a little more calm and harmonious relationships at work and in our families and in the groups that we work with or are with all the time? You know, we're going to have conflicts, but if you know what your personality style is and what theirs is, then you can take things less personal. It's just the way they are, right? You can leave some of those judgments on the table a whole lot easier when you just know that they're just working from a certain perspective. That's all it is, really. It's just a perspective.
No, so true, so true. And it is a powerful knowledge. But I mean, how do you go about it? And well, maybe let's start very practical. What personality type am I? How do you figure out what is your personality type?
Okay, well, let's go ahead and dig deep. First, what I'd like to do is I'd like to maybe describe the 4 different personality types. And then I'll ask you some specific questions. If number 1, do you think you can identify yourself in one of these 4 types? But I want you to remember that, this is just a preference that you have or a default that you sort of go towards. The other thing I would say is you have all of these characteristics in you of all of the 4 types. It's just a preference or the default of what's more natural for you to go to. And so we all have that, but you might fall in between 2 of them, 2 of these categories, like equally. Okay. But I think you'll be able to figure out pretty quickly where you fall somewhere. So if you sort of envision a circular map, and there's 4 quadrants. The first quadrant we're going to talk about the everything DISC model. So DISC is DISC, and each one of those is one of those quadrants. Okay. The first one is the D. The D stands for dominance. Now, this is the type of person who is very results oriented. They are firm and direct in their communications. They don't beat around the bush. They tell it like it is. They don't sugarcoat things. They are driven. They like a good challenge. In fact, they might just like to argue with you just for the sake of arguing. They're strong-willed, and sometimes they're forceful people. And we all know bosses like this, right? In the workplace, where they don't come in and say, "Hey, how was your weekend?" They just are like, "Where are you on the status of XYZ project?" They want to know, and they want the status, and they want it right now. They don't want all the details either. They're 30,000 foot level. Are you on track? Okay. You got any obstacles? What are you dealing with? They just want to know the bigger stuff. They will also help you to get past the obstacles. They do like to cut corners because they want to get the results. Okay. Now, the D person, let me just jump to I'm going to go for all 4 of them, and then we'll talk about them in more detail if you'd like to. So the I stands for influence or influencer. And the I, the folks there, they also are fast-paced. They are results-oriented. They are go-getter types. They have a lot more people-pleasing or people-focused part of their personality. Whereas the D's are more task-minded, the I's are more people-focused, right? So they're enthusiastic, they're very cheerful, they're warm and friendly and chatty and social people, okay? They're also high-spirited, lively. Those are all the kind of words that I would associate with the I's. They do like collaboration because they love working with people. So these D's and I's were the people that suffered the most during the pandemic. They had to work from home. They had to stop going to the office if they were in an office situation. Now, in medical care, you don't get that option, right? So when you're in the health profession, it's a little bit harder. But regardless, if you had to work from home, you found these people didn't mind coming on Zoom all the time. They want to see people and they want to be around people. Okay, so the third one is the S. and that stands for steadiness. The S's are also warm-hearted, people-focused folks, and they like collaboration. They're really good resource people, but they're much more calm. They are more reflective internally. They're more introverted types of people. They think and feel deeply, but they don't often tell you about it. They hold things. They don't speak all the time about like what's really going on with them, but they are even-tempered. They're accommodating, and they're super good resource people. They're also patient and very humble and tactful because they care about how they come across to people. Okay. And they like a stable environment. They love harmony. They do not want to deal with conflict. They're not good conflict people. All right. And then the last one type I want to talk to you about is the C. The C stands for conscientiousness. And the conscientiousness folks are often really detailed and experts in their fields. Okay, so these are your professors, maybe they're knowledge gatherers, they're researchers and scientists and project managers and engineers and doctors, I think sometimes fit into this category. They're analytical, they're often reserved, but they're quality conscious. They want to get things right. They double and triple check things, whether it's a spreadsheet or did I get everything out of the surgery? They're going to make sure that everything is right. But they're also very private people. They don't show a lot of emotion a lot of times, and they think that emotions are not the proper place in the workforce or in the workplace. They don't want people to know how they're feeling, and so when somebody like the I's get a little, chaotic and emotional at work, that might trigger, right, the C's. So you can see how you can have some personality conflicts because people they tend to fall naturally into their own perspectives and places on how they see the world and how they deal with the world. And it's oftentimes not the same as, mere you. So that's why conflicts occur. All right. So let's talk about you now. First, I will ask you, did you see yourself in one of those four or in two of those four styles? And where did you see yourself?
Well, in actual fact, I certainly recognize traits in me in all four quadrants.
Yes, I would agree. Yes, we all have all four.
Exactly. Having said that, initially when you described the D, I was just laughing. Yeah, okay, tick, 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 tick. When you then went to the I thought, actually, hang on, tick, 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 tick. So I think D and I are clearly there. I would say D and I as primary my personality types, but there are influences certainly from S and C as well.
Yes. Yep. And again, we have all of them and we do use all of them, but we will often, fall into our default when we're the most comfortable or when we're the most stressed out. Sometimes even it's stressed out and you might go to the opposite. But I also see you as a DI. Mm-hmm. So the D's and the I's are extroverted in nature, right? So we think out loud. We are articulate and we speak fluent constantly, sometimes just to even see what it is that we're thinking. So we're fast-paced and outgoing folks, okay? So the D's and the I's are fast-paced and outgoing, and the C's and the S's are more cautious and reserved and reflective, okay? They're more cautious in nature. Now, so if you think about somebody in your mind, like say your wife or your partner for your listeners, or say your boss, or even somebody that you don't get along with so well at work. I want you to think about that, right? Are they more than 50% of the time, are they fast-paced and outgoing? Or more than 50% of the time, do they seem cautious and reserved? Now, I say more than 50% because sometimes I'm really cautious and reserved. It depends on the situation, right? But for the most part, I am an extrovert. I am fast-paced and outgoing. All right. The second question you want to ask is, are they more questioning and skeptical most of the time, or warm and friendly most of the time? And the D's and the C's are more questioning and skeptical. And sometimes people really know, they'll be able to answer right away. Oh, yes, I'm questioning and skeptical. Like that's definitely me. Or no, I'm warm and accepting. In fact, those warm and accepting people, they trust much quicker than those questioning and skeptical people do. They trust a lot faster and quicker. And sometimes they've been burned by it. And sometimes it's been, healthy, but still, though, that's the way you sort of tell the difference. But if you're right on the line, like maybe with you're right on the line. Do you think you fall on one side or the other more so? The D side?
No, I
side. Okay. So you're more of a people person than a task oriented, I want to get the job done person.
Yes, I would think so.
Okay.
That is me today.
And that's kind of how we tell.
In the past, that would have been different. And that's interesting because it is certainly, I was a different man.
Yes.
When I was focused on task. Okay, I need to do another publication. I need to do that. I want to achieve that. So these tasks in the past were running my life. Nowadays, I have changed. So, and that is what happens in recovery, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you think changed for you in recovery?
Everything. So how many hours have we got?
I know, right? Well, for one, like for me, I was a lot more selfish. I didn't care as much about other people and how they felt, but which tells me that I'm more of an I than an S. I'm a strong I. All right. I'm a very strong I. But I also, in my own development, I own my I-ness. I own my enthusiasm. I own my collaboration and my results-driven stuff. But I also know that I needed to get really focused and improve my accuracy and improve my attention to detail, because being a trainer, I had to do that, right? So that's why I needed to get more of my C kind of qualities. I had to focus on that for a long time. So when you're developing yourself in your career, you do need to, quote, get out of your comfort zone and sort of expand, right, into some of these other territories. But when it comes to conflict, people normally they go towards where they're most comfortable, and then they criticize the other person for going towards where the other person's most comfortable, if that makes sense. That's basically what we do.
Perfect. The reality is I like the DISC model. It is a very simplified model, and therefore it's easily applicable. I would like to put different dimensions on there, though, because we all have got our baselines. And in this case, I would say I'm more I than D, with little traits of the others in between there. But that is me in general terms. At the same token, if you leave me alone, I can spend beautifully a day just with myself. I can be quite introvert. I can be quite, I'm very happy with myself as such. So therefore, only because I identify as outgoing and extrovert in my life doesn't mean to say that the others are not there. So that's the first thing that sort of comes to my mind. The second thing, though, is that these are the baselines. Now, that is maybe where I work, normally, I would say. But then there is me under stress, and then there is me in distress. So, and that changes. And I guess that is what you were pointing towards with regards to when the pressure comes on. We change.
Yeah. And in the Enneagram, which is a different modality for the personality type, there are very clear channels of where you go to. You almost change personalities in some respects when you're in distress and when you're distressed.
Correct.
For me, I get into D, and I'm really strong I, but when I get into stressed out mode, I can be very dictatorial. I can be very forceful.
Exactly.
You stop it. And but in our maturity, as we grow and mature and evolve, right, we can stop those kinds of reactions. I don't nearly do that anymore. In fact, I almost do the opposite. I'll become more introverted. When I see a conflict going on, I first think, well, is this happening because is it triggering something in me? I step back, I reflect a little first, I decide if I'm going to respond or react, as opposed to just being my natural self, which would be like, what the heck are you talking about? And firing back some sort of smart aleck comment, which is my adolescent. That's my adolescent that wants to come out and be that way. Because my adolescence, I was spent out there using hard. And so I got sober when I was 24. And, you do when you have that self-reflection, it's self-awareness, and you really understand who you are, you can decide. Like when you take any kind of personality assessment, it's just a moment in time sort of description of how you answer these particular questions. But our personality changes a lot. Like in your values, right? Your values changes a lot. How much of your values change by the time, when you're 20 and all you care about is this, to when you're like a family man, then all you care about is that. And then, might have been career at one point and now it's family, or maybe then it's recovery. Yeah, you get it.
You're so right. Yet that personality types actually do also allow us to think about the core values that are often associated with such personality types. So if your core value is servitude and be there for others and be there and to work to then address that person in a more task-orientated way, that might actually give friction, and this person might not even understand why you are so task-driven when all she or he cares about is making others comfortable. So, I mean, think about the various workspaces in which you work. If you're in an open office where people have their desks, there will be some people who have got little plush teddies and a picture of their grandchildren and nice flowers and everything. Honky dory, that type. And then you have got others where the 4 pencils are aligned.
That's your C.
And that's exactly.
The first one you said was your S.
Exactly. Yep. So there you are. So you can already allocate certain things. So
yes, you can.
If you give the person with the plush teddies and the nice pictures, etc., if you give it to this person, if you go in and not even say hello and acknowledge them and give them a spreadsheet in the hand, so fill that out and tell me in an hour where you are at. Do you think that will be working? Do you think?
Right now, I don't know how it is on your side of the world, but right now we're having what we call the Great Resignation, right? Oh. Everybody's leaving their jobs, and there was 10 million people that quit their jobs in just November of 2021. Whoa. And in October there was 9 million. Yeah, they're all getting, 8 million of them got reemployed the next month or whatever it is, but they're switching companies and they're switching jobs. And the biggest reason is because they're like, I'm not putting up with this toxic crap anymore.
Exactly.
I'm sick and tired of you just drilling that all you care about is the bottom line. All you care about is the money. And unfortunately, it's your D's and C's that are so task focused. When they become experts, they are put into leadership positions, right? And oftentimes they don't have the wherewithal to really deal with the human resources, right? Exactly. They're people and care about them. And I teach a lot of leadership classes and teach people about their personalities. And I say, like when you have an S, this is a person who I explain, like, they're like the calm duck floating across the water, and underneath their little feet are going like a mile a minute, paddling. You don't see that. They're the unsung heroes of the even-tempered. These are people that don't like to say no, so they always say yes. They're way overworked, but they're undervalued. They're not being seen for all of what they put in. And unfortunately, they're like, I'm tired of this BS. But here's the thing. When they go into their D boss, it's hard for the S's to like speak up for themselves, to say, you've just given me 8 priorities here. Something's got to give. Which one do you want? Because they're not everybody, but especially younger people are afraid to really stand up for themselves and say, this is too much. I can't take this on, because they're afraid to lose their job or whatever it is. And those D's, they just want to get the work done. And if you always say yes, so everybody's got to learn a little bit more boundaries. And those D's have to learn to listen and like zip it for a minute, listen to what their people have to say and how they're feeling. And especially with the pandemic, right? Because we have, there's illnesses happening in people's families. There's childcare stuff that is, a mess. And there's a lot of other stresses that have come upon us. And so anyways, the long, the short of it is, there are some companies who can keep their people. And there are some companies who are losing them in droves, and it's hard, they say, to hire. But right now there's in America, there's 10 million people out of work. 8.5 million people out of work, and there's 10 million job openings. So we have enough work for everybody, but we're trying to figure out, well, if I'm going to reinvent myself, what do I want to do? I'm sick of doing this old stuff. Now I need to know myself better so I can pick the right thing that's for me, that really floats my boat.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Hell of a lot of sense, yeah. I was not aware of the impact on society, the Great Resignation. I was aware that a lot of people were thinking about it, but that they actually were voting with their feet. That was not clear to me. We certainly see that here in the healthcare service. And obviously it's in the healthcare service, for crying out loud. Nurses and doctors are just saying, what the fuck? Why the hell do I want to be? Oh, they're
way overworked.
Exactly.
Way overworked. Yeah.
So, and that's very hard. So,
but I want to bring back a point to something that you said a little earlier. You said, oh, you know what? It might have been in a different conversation we had, but it's about taking care of yourself. When you're constantly making sure that their needs are met or that they're being taken care of, and you don't have the wherewithal to say, I'm running on empty. Exactly. I don't have it anymore. Because what happens then is we start making mistakes and we don't sleep right, and it affects our health. And pretty soon we're the ones with the disease in our bodies, because we haven't taken time to care for ourselves.
And I think that's the key to everything. If we need to look after ourselves first. It's if you're in the airplane and the oxygen comes down, you're getting told to put the oxygen on yourself first, and then on your child and everyone else. And that is so true. Yet we think it is a cliche, and most of us are. If we subscribe to it, we don't subscribe to it. My generation, and certainly the people who I associate with, we're coming from a time where you go out there, you work hard, and then the results from your work create your relationships, your business, your money, etc. So for us to see someone saying, oh no, I'm not feeling right, there's automatically oh, come on. When I was young, I worked 96 hours a day and then I get drinking, that kind of shit. So
no, even now they're calling it the hustle culture, right? That the more you do, the more you're going to get. But also, I think we have this idea, Stefan, that the harder I work, then somebody's going to notice me.
True.
I'm going to be discovered, and some like millionaire is going to hire me, and I'm going to run their organization. I'm going to make a lot of money. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to advocate for yourself.
Correct.
You have to step up. You have to speak up.
Yeah.
And, for all personality types, that's not so easy. And for all people who are leaders, sometimes that's not so easy to listen to because you can't accommodate everyone.
That's right.
But you can listen. Have you ever had a leader, Stefan, where you really disagreed with the direction that they were going with a certain thing, but they said, well, tell me what you feel and why you're thinking that way, and you got a chance to really verbalize your concerns, and they really took it in. They listened to you, and then they decide to follow their own way anyways. This has happened to me a lot, and I think to myself, well, it's okay, because at least I feel heard. At least they got my 2 cents. Exactly. And so, yeah. It's okay. I will still follow that leader so long as I feel heard and I feel listened to and I feel cared about, like my, my opinion matters. And then when they fail, I will say, I told you so. No, I'm just kidding. I will say, I told you.
Exactly. Exactly right.
A lot of times they have more knowledge and information than me, though. And and it turns out just fine the way they're running it. Yeah.
And that's, of course, that's true. We often are getting too focused on our own pain, on our own frustration. And that's where you were so right. You need to look after yourself first, because if you are not in stress, if you're not in distress, if you're able to bring yourself down, you are so much more effective as a person in protecting yourself from maybe toxic environments, but equally to realize, is that really a toxic environment? Or are these just hard times where you actually as a team need to pull together? If there is no money and your boss is basically ripping his hair out every day and doesn't know how to pay you, well, that's not a nice time for him. So therefore, is he really toxic, or is he just in such distress because he actually loves all of you and he doesn't know how he can pay all of you? So, these are the kind of questions. But if you are in distress yourself, if you haven't looked after yourself and you come in, you just had a fight with your wife, and then this guy cut you off on the way to work and you're running a bit late, and then someone just looked at you, why are you late again? And now you're facing your boss who is just saying, well, guys, I actually need you to work a bit harder. Yeah, right. Is he really the asshole? Or is he actually quite right? We need to work a bit harder. So these are all...
It could be.
It could both be.
I just read something the other day, and it made... Well, I've heard this a long time ago, but I love it. So I'm going to say it again here, is that hurt people hurt people. You've heard that. And you know what? Healed people heal people. Isn't that good?
It is.
Yeah, it's true. The opposite. And so if somebody at work is toxic, they're being a bully, they're hurt. They're hurt people. You don't have to take that personally. You can remove yourself from that sort of focus of like, what did I do to deserve this crap? Stop being a victim and don't give your power away to those people who are hurt, I guess is what I want to say. So it helped me a lot to awaken my compassion with difficult bosses, to think that this isn't really about me. This is their stuff. I'm happy in myself and they cannot ruin my day. And eventually, when I can really come to deal with that on a daily basis, I find myself in a new position. A door will open and some opportunity will come that I can step in. But in the meantime, what do? We kill them with kindness. To attack back does not help. It just doesn't help. And so we got to try to help as many people as we can. And I think that if we can use our personality to persuade others instead of just our job title or our knowledge, my expertise, you should listen to me because I'm an expert. But our kindness, our personality traits, our integrity, our honesty, our empathetic listening, our, just the self-reflection that we use so that we can reflect what other people are, like noticing the basic goodness in all the other people, will really help your relationship so much, whether you're a leader or not.
Very true. And what you're talking there is actually taking ownership of yourself, of your actions, and not becoming the victim and only react to things, but actually taking ownership. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The Serenity Prayer, when I read it the first time on my first day in recovery, I thought, how did they know how I feel? How did they know what I need to hear? Not realizing that it was written probably 200, 300 years ago, that prayer. But obviously it is something that was new to me. And nowadays I so live by that creed, by that thought, because there are certain things I cannot do something about.
Especially during the pandemic. There's so much, there's almost anything. We can't do anything. So let me tell you, what do you think, Stefan? What do you think that you really have control over in your life? What do you really have full control over?
My reactions. That's the only thing I can possibly
and how you
control.
think.
Yeah, that's true.
How you think.
My core beliefs. And you think, well, wow, your core beliefs were laid down in childhood. Your core beliefs, they are, no. How the hell can you think that you have good control over that? You actually have. You
can change them. You have to change them.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we're just going to be drunks forever, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. There's the core belief. Good example there. Step 4 in the 12-step program. You have to sort of work out, do the very brutal, in-depth inventory of yourself. And if you do that right, with the right guidance by psychologists, mentors, people who have been there, and you actually start to learn what is really happening in you, where certain emotions are coming from, which is the core beliefs, and then how these emotions cause actions and reactions. Once you figure that out, you can actually start changing things. And that's a superpower, isn't it?
Yep. Because once you figure it out, your emotions don't cause anything. You could just let them flow through your body.
Yeah.
Period.
They
don't, right? Then you don't have to react to your emotions.
Exactly.
And that is empowerment. That is taking responsibility. So it's interesting because I'm going to share this. This is just a key lesson for me in my life. And I have shared this with all my clients and everybody I sponsor. And it's really very helpful. And that's the fact that when you take full ownership of who you are, and after you get, used to really allowing yourself to feel all the feels, there is nobody else that is responsible for your feelings. Nobody else. I don't care what they say to you or how they say it. You're not responsible for their feelings and they're not responsible for yours. Having said that, doesn't mean we don't have to be nice, but, but you have to take responsibility for what's going on in your brain. And even then, we're not responsible for the first thought, but we are for the second one.
Oh, nice one.
Because we do have a dark side.
We
have a dark side. And that does come in, right? That inner critic, that imposter syndrome voice that says stuff that's not a good thing. But if you can learn to just not react to that and allow those emotions to pass through you, you can pretty much be unstoppable and create anything you want in your life. It's amazing.
It is. But guys, let's be real. It's not necessarily easy, okay?
No.
For Maureen and me,
it takes years of practice.
Absolutely. And then even then, you will never become a master, because ultimately there are days when I just want to be angry. Anger and resentment was my fallback. That has defined my life for a long period of time. It was this external locus of control. Look what they did to me. And because they did that, now I drink a bottle of vodka. Ha ha. I show them. That kind of bullshit.
That's that ego voice that wants to keep you small and hurting and ashamed and all of it.
Sure. But so anger is there and it will always be there. And that's often my first response. And I have to think, stop. Am I actually analyzing the whole situation right? Did I actually understand what this person said? Did I really understand it? Or am I just, did somehow the way she looked at me, did that trigger me in something which had absolutely nothing to do with what she has said? Happens all the time with my wife and me. So sometimes, especially when I'm tired and I come home, the only thing I want to have is a hug. And I've cleaned up everything and there's that one thing. And she looks at that one thing. Why is that not done? Kind of a thing. And I want to strangle her. Yet,
let's talk about her personality type. Let's talk about it. What do you think she is?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is she more fast-paced and outgoing or cautious and reflective?
Cautious and reflective.
I know she is because I could tell. Because nobody would have. Okay, so she's more cautious and reflective. Yeah. Is she more questioning and skeptical or warm and accepting?
Questioning and skeptical.
Yeah, so she's a C. Right? She wants precision. She has a system. Everything in its place and everything needs to be in its right order or her world doesn't feel stable or her world doesn't feel, but she's always composed, I bet you, and how she says things. And she's tactful, especially maybe not with you, but
exactly.
with people at work.
Oh, absolutely. So true. So true. Yeah. And as I often say, I know her in her function at work. People love her. She's a gorgeous woman. I know that. But when she's with me, I see a different side. And
it's her critical. Yes, it's not even that she's trying to critique you as much as get your behaviors in line with what makes her comfortable. It's a personality thing. And Correct. You know what? As an I, you are the opposite personalities of each other. Yeah.
Opposites attract after all. So
that's
there
true.
You are. So
and you are better as a whole because you complement each other for the kids.
Yin and yang. Yeah. That is the absolutely true. But
my husband is an SC. He's an SC, sort of right on the line. So I'm with you, brother. I know what you're going through.
But once we actually shine light on those things, once we actually explore that and understand where this is coming from, and that is where you show respect and ownership. It's okay to be triggered. It's okay to feel angry about the other person. It's not okay to let that anger out. To actually, it's maybe half a year after.
You still have to own it.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
Because.
But you need to like self-awareness.
She doesn't trigger your anger. Your anger was already in you. She didn't make it. Like That's it was true. Already there. She just triggered it. So what we say is, this is what I say. God gave us nothing but angels, really. For all of those people that push our buttons, that trigger us, especially at work, those are your angels. Look at that. Don't shoot the messenger. Look at that. Oh, there's something still in me that needs to be resolved. It's probably something that might have happened in your childhood or it's one of those traumas that occurred in your teenage years or somewhere in the past. And it's being triggered now. And the reason you attracted that person into your life to begin with is because your higher self wants you to work on this shit. And get it out and get it healed. And when you heal that, you will no longer attract those kind of bosses or those kind of colleagues, or they'll be there, but they totally won't trigger you anymore.
Very beautifully said. And that's exactly how I look at my emotions nowadays. I see my emotions, the anger, the resentment, the feeling overwhelmed, all these kind of things, they are messengers for me. I see them as old friends, maybe smelly and not so nice old friends that I don't like to have around, but they are old friends, old acquaintances that I say, oh, hello, you're here. Okay, what's the message? And that message is typically that I have not looked after myself, that I have not worked on my sobriety or on my mental well-being. Therefore, I have worked on my relapse, and I've worked on my basically mental illness. So these are the choices that we make on as a baseline with every single decision we make every day. So, and being just aware of that is already a very powerful thing. But no, it's good to feel these emotions, to feel terror, to feel an anxiety attack, to feel all those emotions washing over you. And that's what they are. They're waves of neurochemical substances that are just washing over your brain. And if you just wait 10 minutes, they're gone.
Oh,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you don't necessarily need to respond, but you need to take
but that's
note.
What we just can't stand the pain. And so we anesthetize ourselves, or we turn to the phone, or we get on social media, or we go to the movies. But you know what? If you just allow ourselves to feel the pain for the 10 minutes, it will dissipate. And then guess what? You get joy on the other side.
That's true.
Get the opposite level of reaction on that emotional scale. Unless you have chemical depression, then it's, it might be different. But I think for the most part, it's at least for me, I always feel better after a good cry.
And after a good cry, which means you actually, again, take ownership. You actually accept that right now it's okay not to be okay. And it's right now it's okay to fall apart. And that is so beautiful, to give yourself the permission and to accept that this is a privilege to actually experience such an emotion and such a reaction in response to whatever has occurred. And it is beautiful. Experience for what it is.
And you don't have to do it alone either.
Yeah, true.
You can, but call a good friend and do it with a friend. Yeah, let them be a witness.
Exactly, but you don't have to numb it. You don't have to distract it.
You shouldn't. No.
It depends upon when and where you are. There are times,
that's very true.
As a doctor,
you can't feel it all the time at work.
Exactly, right? Exactly right. And sometimes you have to be the asshole.
That's called emotional intelligence.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Exactly. I like that. Very much like that.
That's a whole nother podcast we could do the next time we talk.
I like that, actually, because that is the stuff that we need to teach everyone out there, but it's certainly those that are within our little bubbles. So the children and the grandchildren, it is. Wait, other finger. There. That is Esme, the mindful mouse, on the tip of my finger there, and that is my first children's book that I've written, and it's actually exactly about mindfulness and about a little mouse in our redwood forest here who is very, very vivacious and exuberant and wants to do things, yay! And sometimes her actions are unfortunately upsetting her friends, and they get growly and angry with her because she might have just destroyed their bed where they were lying, or woke them up when they were sleeping or so. So they're angry with her, and she worries that they're angry with her and that she is a bad mouse, when in reality, it was her actions that triggered something, that triggered a reaction. And then at the end of the book, she realizes that actually, no, they're not angry about me, and I'm not a bad mouse, but they're angry about my action. And maybe I just need to be a bit more mindful about what life is all about. And maybe you should make that mandatory reading for everyone at work in my workspace. Okay, so it is. These lessons are universal, but if you can actually start at a very early stage and create that emotional awareness, that emotional situational awareness, how nice would that be?
That would be nice,
isn't it? No, life is too short, and I think it's so beautiful because when we, like you and me, we are in recovery, we are growing, we're addicts, but we're addicted to growing into someone new and improving our ourselves every day. Self-help junkie, you called yourself a bit earlier on. I love that. That's exactly what I am nowadays, or what I'm trying to be. So if there's a day where I don't learn something new, it's a very, very sad day. That never actually happens. If there's an hour where I don't learn something new, then okay, maybe. So no, guys, I mean, what I want to say is, we have today talked about our beautiful, beautiful personality types, and hopefully you got a bit of an insight how we tick, and that whilst we all are beautiful individuals, still there are certain common traits that make us the beautiful people that we are. And some of the traits are unfortunately quite unique and beautiful there, but when they mix with someone else, as we've discovered today, it can be perfect clashes waiting to happen. By just us talking about it, you have learned shitloads today, guys. So therefore,
And
it's beautiful.
I could also, if anybody's interested, you could download a handout that will share a little bit more about each of these 4 personality types by going to my website, emergeleadershipacademy.com/NEFF, NEFF. And you can download a worksheet. And that's not really a worksheet. It's a sort of a reference sheet that will share those questions that I talked about earlier to help type somebody else and yourself, and you can see where you fall.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yes, guys, indeed. And that is already probably you're the hub where also they can learn more about you, Maureen.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Wonderful, wonderful.
And my podcast is there, my book, and everything. Yeah.
Guys, look down there into the description of the podcast and of the YouTube video. You'll find all the information about Maureen there, Maureen Ross Gemme, who is a true gem in providing such a beautiful clarity and making personality types so easily understandable and relatable. And maybe it gives you a new power to actually a new power within your own life, but also how to deal with relationships at work and how to maybe get a better insight in what is happening around you. So everything helps. Every little step into the right direction will make you a better human being. And you are on a journey. You are powerful. There is hope. There is a future ahead that is better than what you maybe at the moment are going through. And the sheer fact that you're listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube video tells me you want to do that. And I trust in you. I believe in you, because you being here is you are taking already action. You're taking steps in the right direction. And there is no way that no one can take that away from you. You have become a new person right now. And that is gorgeous. So Maureen, thank you so much for coming onto my show. You're an amazing woman. You are gorgeous in the way you can analyze people and help others understand themselves better. And therefore, in turn, make this world better. And if we all work together. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Gorgeous. Maureen Ross Gemme, you are fantastic. Please keep going. And I just wonder who you will be when you grow up. Exactly, because you're still growing. So therefore.
Never stops.
Well, exactly. How gorgeous is that? Maureen, thank you so much for being absolutely. And you guys out there, look after yourself. Bye.
Bye.